Hi, my name is Mohammad J Torabi. The future reference for content production, reputable media, or social media influencers. We want to talk about this. During the outbreak of COVID-19, the way of dealing with communicating with astronomical audiences in Iran completely changed. Like many other countries in the world, webinars replaced face-to-face seminars, and instead of the usual science television programs, there are live shows on social media and online platforms that are widely viewed. The webinars are so well received that it is thought that after the pandemic, classes and seminars will no longer be the same as they were in the past. Besides, astronomical tourism is active only in its weakest and most limited state. The COVID-19 outbreak resulted in declining print sales because people avoided outdoor goods. In contrast, magazine subscriptions and online book purchases have become more popular than in previous years. All of this showed how dynamic astronomical institutions must be to survive after such a global event. In other words, it was no longer possible for multilateral astronomical institutions to continue to operate as in the past. Failure to hold annual events such as World Astronomy Day, World Space Week, and URI's Nights, as well as the cancellation of monthly events such as monthly events of astronomy clubs held on a special day at the beginning or end of each month. And in the absence of annual events such as the Messier Marathon caused the level of communications between astronomy enthusiasts in Iran to be minimized. However, the need for video communication was greater than ever, and as a result, the monopoly of producing studio content from several individuals or entities was broken, and hundreds of people produce video content, usually in the form of live in Instagram and or webinars. The multiplicity of content production reduced the comprehensiveness of traditional media and reduced the scientific sensitivity of the content produced, so that each person has the opportunity to convey the context to their audience without having experience and expertise in education or media work. As much as this brings society closer to a free and polyphonic world, it has raised concern about inaccurate content in the era of changing the work style of traditional and prestigious astronomical institutions. Have social media influencers, instead of the reputable media outlet, become the main source of information? Does this change affect the quality of the content provided? These are the questions we are looking for answers to by talking to different experts. Each of the Iranian experts and astronomical promoters mentioned specific cases, but common keywords can be found in these conversations despite different perspectives. To answer the first question, have social media influencers, instead of the reputable media outlet, become the main source of information? The most important point mentioned was the dynamic transition from the traditional media space to social media. Thus, in a country with strong media and astronomical institutions, if the media is associated with this technological transition, they can still be the main source for the general public, given their power and capabilities. In the meantime, of course, there are many ifs and buts. Lack of media independence and financial support, especially for astronomical media, has actually made the change very difficult. Without financing, it is not possible to be continuously active on social media platforms. This is where the reputable media stay away from the main way of communicating with the new generation of audiences, and new faces emerge with the help of these tools. This, in turn, is a great opportunity to multiply the monopoly of information, but given the growing visual appeal of social media, we are now dealing with social media influencers with no mastery of scientific contents, who have millions of followers. Promoting pseudoscience, misunderstanding, and superstition are among the concerns with this paradigm shift. So that even now you can follow the news about the appearance of UFOs and the secret of the imaginary content in these pages. The 20-fold ratio of the number of followers of these pages to reputable scientific authorities in Iran has practically turned this space into an equal campaign. The gap is widening rapidly with the funding of popular pages through advertising, and conversely, the weakening of astronomical institutions following the outbreak of the coronavirus. The growing influence has caused widespread concern among science promoters and science journalists in Iran, some of whom I spoke to. According to some science journalists, this change is not directly due to the advent of social media, but to generation change, in particular change of generation in content producers who without a strong scientific support can attract more audience than previous generations in an attractive framework at high speed and with greater mastery of other languages. This is why the pandemic is not considered to be the reason for this shift. It only accelerated it. Other Iranian science journalists claim that the popularity of social media has made it easier for the followers of these social media influencers to get acquainted with the news that belong to yellow journalism. But they may verify the news with reputable people and institutions. Furthermore, there is hope that some of these followers double check the content with trusted non-influencers or macro influencers pages. Non-law influencers and macro influencers with a few thousands to several tens of thousands of audience have content and posts that are seen and referred in many situations, but in general do not have many followers. For this reason, belief and hope have been formed for Iranian science journalists that although social media influences have a great impact in short term, with increasing public awareness and media literacy, this impact fades away and the media is still recognized as a reputable base. What is clear, however, is the first come, first serve rule is currently placed in platform where it is possible to share instance content such as Twitter. As with the production of instantaneous content such as unveiling of the first image of black hole, there was no difference between ordinary users and reputable media, and each account that provided more detailed information in a faster way attracted more audience. In response to the second question, does this change affect the quality of the content provided? Almost all science journalists and science promoters in Iran believe that due to the nature of social networks, the production of large amount of content leads to decline in quality of the produced content regardless of their scientific validity. However, there is hope that as media literacy and public awareness increases, new generation will be able to review it themselves by accessing search engines despite receiving large amount of content that has little scientific value. As the playing field changes with increasing awareness, professionals who produce content not so fast but produce more accurate and credible content will find more audience. Consequently, it is anticipated that the engagement radius of social media influencers who produce content known as yellow journalism will decrease. However, one cannot ignore the increase of the pure graphical quality in the production of social media influencers. Social media influencers also get in touch with the audience better as they are engaging narrators for the general public in conclusion. For the general public. In conclusion, strengthening the foundation of the scientific media institutions help them to be more dynamic in this continuous transition and ever respond to this increase in audience expectations of reliable sources. Additionally, two-way exchange of these science promoting media and reputable institutions with figures of scientific journalism and science promoters and experts in the field who are dominant narrators can turn these institutions and media into more attractive narrators. Thank you.